everybody, this is Heidi over at Healing Harvest Homestead, and I'm getting ready to make some skin cream, some homemade skin, not cream actually, it's a salve, more of a salve, for the belly, for stretch marks and things like that, or your thighs or your arms. You know, and the thing about stretch marks is that they're tricky and they're difficult, right? And honestly, I'm just going to say that if you're a woman and you have stretch marks, I like to see them as a badge of courage and empowerment and honor instead of, you know, please don't look upon them as being ugly. But I was requested to make this cream for one of my daughters-in-law who just had a baby, and she's worried about the stretch marks. And you know, I don't blame her. That's, you know, it's hard when your body starts changing because of normal things that women do, right? Like have babies. But one thing to know about stretch marks is you can improve them, but once the skin is stretched and it's damaged, it's you know, difficult to get those connected fibers back. So you can definitely condition your skin and make them less noticeable and reduce the appearance. In fact, because of things I've been using, I had a really big bad keloid scar on my ankle for years from breaking it. When I started using herbs and my own handmade creams, well, you can't even see it now. So there's hope. That's why I'm telling you there's hope. So what I'm going to use with this homemade cream are a few things that I have here. First of all, you're going to need to have a pint-sized mason jar or a quart-sized mason jar. Either one is just fine. And you're going to need a pan with a bit of water because you're going to make a double boiler system. And then I'm going to combine some different herbal infused oils with some really great butters, okay? So what I'm going to use here is a 1/4 cup of shea butter, which I have right here. And I'm going to go ahead and put it in my pint-size mason jar. It's really cold in here, so it's quite stiff. And then I'm going to go ahead and measure loosely out about a 1/4 cup of cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is really hard, so you know, you can grate it if you want to, or just eyeball it, which is what I do. Cocoa butter is really good for your skin, and it's good for helping with damaged skin too. So I'm going to dump that in. Now what I'm going to do with this, my butters, is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set them in my pan of water, and I'm going to put them on low heat, which I have right here on my redneck camp stove. I go ahead and my common butters I like to use are shea butter and cocoa butter, and I do use other butters. I've got all kinds of different oils and things like that, but these are two of my favorite. I'm going to go ahead and let my butters melt in my mason jar over here on the camp stove and clean up the butters that I'm using. I've found that if I clean up as I go along, it's not as bad later on. But a couple of other oils I'm going to put in here. I'm going to go ahead and use some tamanu oil, which is excellent for the skin, and some sea buckthorn oil. And I thought I'd also go ahead and use some rosehip oil as well. Between these three oils, as well as the cocoa butter and the shea butter, you've got kind of a wide range of nutrients that are excellent for the skin. So that's all going into the salve. And then the other thing I'm going to put into the salve are about a 1/2 cup of herb infused oils. Now the herb infused oils I'm going to use are St. John's wort. Look how red that is. I love St. John's wort oil. It's just incredible for your skin, as well as for your nervous system. And then this is a combination of St. John's, comfrey, plantain, lavender, and calendula oil. All of the herbs in this oil are amazing for your skin. Calendula especially is a really strong vulnerary herb, which means it heals the skin. It can knit it back together. And comfrey as well. Plantain as well. They're all excellent for things like wounds or you know, different skin issues you might have. So those are my main ingredients. Okay, a cup, 1/2 cup of combined infused oils, and then I had a 1/4 cup of the shea butter, a 1/4 cup of the cocoa butter, and I'm just going to do a few squirts of these oils as soon as the butters are melted, and then we'll talk about the essential oils too. Okay, so our butters are melted, and now I'm ready to put the rest of my ingredients into this jar, and then I'll show you what to do. The rest of our ingredients are liquid, so that's why I didn't worry about putting them into the pan. Now, while we were waiting for those butters to melt, I took a good sniff of my combination infused oil, and I think it's on its way to, it's not there yet, but it's on its way to rancidity, and I want this to be a really good balm for my daughter-in-law. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a combination of calendula and St. John's wort, and I also think it's going to be a pretty color. The calendula is golden and lovely, and the St. John's wort is red. I'm hoping it gives it a nice pink tint. When I make salves with just plain St. John's wort oil made from the fresh herb, the salves turn out amazing. So I'm going to go ahead and use a 1/4 cup of the St. John's wort oil. You can see what that looks like there. Oh, pretty. And I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of the calendula infused oil. And I really don't have a problem with this substitution because calendula is such a great vulnerary herb. Alrighty, you can see that beautiful color. It's kind of a golden red. And now I'm going to go ahead and just put in couple good squirts of this rosehip seed oil and my sea buckthorn oil, which is a beautiful dark color, kind of golden also. 2 good pippets of that. And then my tamanu oil, which is dark green, really cool. I'm going to do about 3 or 4 of that one. 3, okay. And little touch of vitamin E oil. Also, ooh, really helpful. Gosh. Sorry. Sometimes things get a little messy. And then my essential oil. So I'm going to use in her balm some frankincense essential oil because frankincense is so good for the skin. And in this regard, I think I'm going to take the dropper off. For this pipette, or for this, I'm going to measure out the equivalent of about 200 drops. And I'm being fairly approximate here, just because this is a very safe essential oil, and I'm dealing with a really high quantity of butters and oils. So my dilution is going to be just fine. And now I'm going to mix it up real well. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. And I'm going to go ahead and use 2 4-ounce jelly jars. These are just regular little mason jars. One of my favorite ways to go ahead and use my salves in, or put my salves in. Okay, and they're liquid in here. I'll hold one up so you can see it. Maybe you can see it right now, but you can see that right there. Oh, shoot. You know what I forgot? Beeswax. Okay, so if you make a mistake like I did, and you forget something really important, like your beeswax, because you guys, beeswax is what's going to give you a nice firm salve. Well, here's what you do. You go ahead and you pour your liquid oils and butters back into your mason jar, and you put it back into your pan, and you measure out your beeswax. Holy cow, I can't believe I forgot my beeswax. So my standard measurement when I make salves, and I'll make adjustments depending on if I want a harder salve or a softer salve. But usually I will put about 1/4 of a cup of beeswax to every 1 cup of oils, okay? And since I had basically 4/4 of butters and oils here, then we're good to go with 1/4 of the beeswax. So I'm gonna go ahead and let that melt in there. There you go, you can see this. Okay. By the way, when you're melting your oils and your solids together in your double boiler, you don't want high heat, okay, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you could break your glass, and that's a real bummer, okay? Number two, you know, depending on the oils that you've got going on with the herbs and with the essential oils and everything else, you don't want to break down the properties of your good plant constituents. In this case, I already put in my essential oil. So, you know what? It is what it is. But regardless, it's going to be a very fine salve. Okay, so I've removed the jar from the double boiler system, or from my camp stove. And I do not have a hot pad in here, so I'm just using my sleeve. So I'm just using my sleeve. But now I'm going to go ahead and pour these oils into the little 4-ounce jelly jars. Okay, and because I added a 1/4 cup of beeswax, I have a little bit left over. That was actually my indication for me knowing that I had forgotten something, because usually I have about 2 ounces left over. So I'm going to go grab a tin and pour the rest of this into the tin, and I'll have a little bit of extra nice salve for skin and hands and things. Now, I want to tell you about these 2 jars real fast. So right now, you've got a combination of liquid butters, oils, and your beeswax plus your essential oils. And I'm going to let them just sit here. Now, it's cold in my house, so they're already starting to set up, and I don't want to touch them because if I do, it's going to be really kind of not pretty. It won't be like a nice, pretty smooth top. It'll still be fine to use, of course, but it won't be beautiful. So I'm just going to let these sit, and probably, you know, for several hours until they're completely set up, and then they're going to be good to go. They're going to be good to give away, they're going to be good to use, and it's going to be awesome. I've actually already rubbed some onto my hands from out of the jar that got on me, and it's going to be nice, and it smells nice too. So, all right, I hope you enjoyed this little demonstration of how to make a stretch mark cream salve. And again, this kind of a salve isn't going to solve or cure or prevent or anything else the stretch marks. I'm not even allowed to say that. But it's going to help the health of your skin. And just as I put my disclaimer out there, since I'm on that track right now, I'm not a medical doctor, and nothing I ever say or share is meant to cure, treat, diagnose, or prevent any disease or illness. And please be sure you speak with a medical professional before you use any herbs or essential oils. And these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to please subscribe. And I'm going to be sure to look down in the description, because I'm going to link to where you can buy these oils and where I get my essential oils if you're interested, and some other articles that are on the website that you might also be interested in. Okay, bye-bye.